our focus can't be on what's happened. Our focus has to be on what's going to happen and continuing to try to predict most effectively what's going to happen.
You can't focus on what's happened? Do you just ignore it then? Let's get into this. Jesse Rogers interviews Carter Hawkins on ESPN Chicago. Now, I want to first of all say that I am going to be critical of Carter Hawkins. I'm going to be critical of Jesse Rogers in this interview, but I do by no means think ill will of either of these guys. In fact, I had both of them on our show before. Carter Hawkins on a little quick spring training fun interview, and then Jesse Rogers was actually on our show when we were talking about this whole breaking even thing with Tom Ricketts. And for that reason, I just want to first of all say, if for some reason Jesse Rogers ends up watching this, appreciate Jesse, appreciate you, but also just like a reliever has a bad game, just like a hitter has a bad game, you're allowed to have some bad games, quote unquote, from an interview perspective. And I think Jesse missed a really big opportunity, and I didn't want this to get missed here because this was a really revealing interview from how Carter Hawkins and the baseball front office think. And I thought Jesse had an opportunity to ask some really good questions, and they just weren't asked. So you, the fans listening right now, I want to know the same thing from you. Do you think these answers were kind of soft because the questions were soft, or do you think that you're okay with the answers? So let's go ahead and get into this first. We're going to talk about the lineup. We're going to talk about Dansby Swanson. We're going to talk about left-handed pitching, and then stay to the end because we are going to be talking about a organizational mindset that actually is kind of exciting and new because it's different than what I've heard in the past.
A couple of, let's call them like internet debates, callers that call into the radio station, and they're involved in the lineup. So that I know it's more for Craig Counsell, but you guys are all involved in these kinds of things. People, Carter, are upset when there's a lefty on the mound that Dansby's batting fourth, even though Pete Crow Armstrong's numbers against lefties aren't great. What is the calculus there? Is it really about the first inning getting Dansby up against what he's traditionally better at, hitting lefties? Not so much this year, though. So that's like a big internet debate. People get all upset when Swanson bats fourth.
No, that's not. You're missing the point on this, Jesse. That's not the question to ask. All of Cubs Twitter does not get mad when Dansby Swanson only bats fourth. All of Cubs Twitter is mad when Dansby Swanson bats fourth or fifth, including myself. We'll get more into the numbers here in a second, but the question to ask is, why is Dansby Swanson batting so high in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, when things don't go well, typically people get upset, and that's just kind of part of the deal. And our focus can't be on what's happened. Our focus has to be on what's going to happen and continuing to try to predict most effectively what's going to happen. We think Dansby's a really good player. We think his body of work against left-handed pitching, makes him have more likely to be a successful hitter moving forward against lefties.
I said it in the beginning. I'll say it again. What you just said, we can't focus on what has happened. I just don't know how you justify saying that he's admitted himself as a baseball nerd. How, as a baseball nerd, can you say we can't focus on what has happened? We have to focus on what's going to happen. Well, that's what history is. That's how you determine the future, as you look at the past. So, okay, let's defend that for a second, because Dansby this year hitting left-handed pitchers at a 772 OPS versus right-handed pitchers 710. So yes, is he better against left-handed pitchers? Absolutely. Is a 772 OPS what you want out of your fourth or fifth hitter? No. Minimum right around that 775, which is, what he's doing as a 772 OPS against left-handed pitching. But again, I'm not, I know that Jesse and Carter are having this conversation again about where Dansby's batting about against lefties. I'm not having that conversation. I'm having the conversation of, why is Dansby batting as high as he is when there's other options? We'll get to those options here in a second. Overall, he's a 724 OPS. So again, 772 from a left-handed standpoint, 710 from a righty. It averages out to be 724. That's the problem. If you want a 775 minimum from your fifth batter, that's a 50-point difference. Fundamentally, that's where I'm at. Maybe you're different. Maybe you're saying, hey, I don't care as much about OPS for my fifth batter. I just want home runs. Well, Dansby's got that, but he's also got a lot of really negatives that come with that as well. But what about just in the lineup in general? Where is Dansby best? Well, this year, let's list it off. He's batted fifth, 49 games, and he has a 681 OPS. So go back to that 775. Now we're close to 100 points under where you would want a fifth batter. Okay, and that's his largest sample size, 49 games. Batting fourth, even worse. And again, this is supposed to, he's only batting fourth when it's against lefties. A 348 OPS. I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but like Nick Madrigal, go ahead and bat fourth for us. Miles Mastroboni, go ahead and bat fourth for us. That's what you're essentially getting out of it. Only 8 games. Extremely small sample size. Batting sixth, 501 OPS in 10 games. Where it's sexy is 7th and 8th. 1,315 OPS batting 7th. 1,183 OPS batting 8th. Only a combined 16 games in those two spots. 7 games from the 7th spot, 9 games from the 8th spot. So it's extremely small sample size. But why wouldn't you go? Listen, I'm a business person. If I see that someone is not good at their job, I'm going to put them in a different role before I just let them go. So I'm not saying let Dansby Swanson go, get him out of the lineup. I'm saying put him somewhere else. If he's thriving in the 7th and 8th spot, we have other options. I'm going to get to those options in a second. You might be thinking, well, no, we don't call. Yes, we do. We 100% do.
The batting order, it's, we're solving for trying to score the most runs in that game, but there's a lot of other things too, right? Like we try to alternate righties and lefties, so you can't just have this pocket of lefties that a left-handed reliever can come in, or same thing with right-handers, where you have this pocket where a right-handed reliever can come in and mow down 3 guys in a row.
Yes, Carter, 100%. I understand what you mean. If you have back-to-back lefties, then suddenly, you've got, I don't know, Josh Hader coming in the 9th inning, and he's facing Bush followed by PCA. That's not a recipe for success. I'm 100% with you on that. However, you can forecast those things based on what does that bullpen look like? Do they have a dominant lefty? If they have a dominant lefty, then it makes sense to do that. If they don't have a dominant lefty, or they only have a lefty that comes in the 7th inning and not the 9th inning or the 8th inning, then why are we creating a lineup based around what might happen in 1 inning and ignoring the rest of the other 8 innings? That's my point. That's my issue, is you're literally creating a lineup saying, what if this happens in that 1 inning where a lefty comes in and then, we lose the game because of that 1 inning? There's 8 other innings. Get your guys the most amount of at-bats, and I'm not even saying it's Michael Busch. It's Nico Hoerner. You all think it's crazy, I know, but Nico Hoerner, maybe you don't think it's crazy. Nico Hoerner against lefties especially, a 943 OPS. In the clutch, runners in scoring position, you keep on hearing the numbers. He's one of the best clutch hitters the Cubs have this year. Just put him in the 5th spot if you have to go lefty, righty, lefty. If you don't have to do that, you have one of the hottest hitters in the world right now, Michael Busch, and he's still batting 6th. Justify that to me. I can't justify that. He's literally He's in the top 10 for OPS plus or WRC plus, one of the two, might be maybe both, in the league. Why is he batting 6th? Justify that. A lot of Cubs fans on Twitter, they keep saying, oh, well, we're winning, just enjoy the ride. No, I'm not going to just enjoy the ride because we're only 2.5 games up as I'm recording this. And if I did just enjoy the ride, how much fun would you have watching this show? I'm not trying to say I'm taking hot takes to take hot takes, but this is a legitimate concern of mine that we just, as Cubs fans, are like, just enjoy the ride. No, get mad about this. Get upset. Scream on Twitter. Jesse Rogers is asking this question because we're loud on X. We have a voice through these reporters. Now, again, I wish Jesse would have asked a better question, but at least you know that it's reaching the front office by doing this. So just be loud about it. Okay, one more thing, and then we're going to talk about the lineup construction.
The one thing I would push back on is, and Jed has said this over and over again, let's not get too caught up in the lineup. Put your better hitters at the top, and that makes a lot of sense because of the extra at bat. And so here's my thought on PCA batting at least 4th, is that most bullpens are right-handed. Most closers, minus Josh Hader, are right-handed. And do you not – look, it's a 51-49 decision maybe. Do you not want to leave PCA on deck? And I think that's happened a couple times in the 9th inning against a right-handed closer.
Yes. Jesse, great pushback. Good job. Again, I'm not hating on Jesse. I just thought that the first question was really a softball question when it could have been harder. This was a great pushback, though. So here's what I am most interested in hearing from all of you guys. Ian Happ is batting leadoff, right? Especially recently, got the home run ball in the arsenal. But, I mean, clogging up the base paths, can't argue that. Does he see a lot of pitches? 100%. Does he like batting leadoff? He said no. Is PCA the best option? Well, if you go in the mindset of the best players should get the most at bats, then yes. You're not going to move Kyle Tucker. He's phenomenal at second. You're not going to move Seiya Suzuki, having his career year at third. PCA is either batting fourth, fifth, or he's batting first. You're not going to move him down in the lineup, and your only option is moving him up. So all of you Ian Happ lovers, which I'm not an Ian Happ hater, but all of you Ian Happ lovers who are going to say, it's working, just keep him there. No. If you look at, once again, going back to what I had to say about putting people in positions to succeed where they're actually good, you look at Ian Happ's numbers in his career, by far the best spot, if we're looking at like top of the lineup kind of stuff, not, he used to bat 7th, 8th. Don't put him down there. He had a high OPS down there. In his career, batting 5th, 885 OPS. By far the best spot in the lineup. What I'm saying here, Happ bats first right now. You're missing at bats. I mean, there was that one game against, was it the Cardinals, where Seiya Suzuki grounded into a double play. PCA had already hit a home run that game. You just, like, your heart sunk with a one-run game, and Seiya ends the game with a double play, and he's sitting there on the on-deck circle, and you're just like, this is why he needs more at-bats. I know he's been in a little bit of a slump recently, but this is why he needs more at-bats. Put him in the first spot. Put Ian Happ where he thrives at the 5th spot. Well, Kyle, there's still a hole in the 4th spot. We have one of the top 10 hitters right now from a productivity standpoint in baseball, and his name is Michael Busch. Put him back in the 4th spot. He was batting 4th a ton earlier in the year. Put him back over there. Stop batting him 6. PCA, Tucker, Suzuki, Busch, Happ. PCA lefty, Tucker lefty. You got an issue with that? Swap Seiya and Tucker. Then you've got lefty in Busch and switch hitter in Happ. Again, and then you still have a lefty on lefty. I don't care about the back-to-back lefties because I don't want to play this game for 1 inning. I want to play this game for 9 innings. Play it for 9. Put the best hitters in the best position to be able to get the best result for the entire game, not just for specific points of the game. That's my theory. Am I crazy? Am I thinking way too simplistically about this? Please let me know in the comments. Then you got probably Nico 6th, probably Dansby 7th, Carson Kelly 8th, maybe switch Dansby and Carson Kelly, and then Shaw 9th. And there you go. But here's the thing. The Cubs still have a hole. I love you, Matt Shaw. You're a great guy. You're going to be a good player for the Cubs for years to come. If you turn into a Mark DeRosa for the Cubs, that's a valuable, valuable player. I think he could be exactly that kind of player. But right now in 2025, this team needs to win a World Series. That spot is a weak spot for the Cubs. Go get Eugenio Suarez. Now that's a fun 1 through 5, 1 through 6 lineup. Okay? This is where I'm at. Where are you at? Let me know in the comments. Now, the next question from Jesse, I'm just going to summarize it for you. I'm not going to play it. He essentially just says, what's up with Cubs against left-handed starters, or 11 and 13 against lefty starters this year? And this is what Carter had to say.
In terms of the left-handed hitting, I mean, I think we're 5th in the league against left-handed pitching overall.
6th in OPS, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a strength of ours, honestly. And, look, we face some really good left-handed starting pitchers, your Skubal's, your Valdez's. So I think from that perspective, the 11 and 13 or whatever that stat was you said, I think that's a little bit misleading. Feel really good about our lineup. If we can improve, of course we will, but that's not an area that we're staring at and going, oh, man, that's a big weakness for us.
Oh, that's interesting, because I wasn't sure if the 6th in OPS was misleading or the 11 and 13. You know what I mean? Like,
again, okay, Jesse pushed back the other time. I wanted him pushed back here. Here's the problem. Okay, so you're tops in the league, one of the top in the league against left-handed pitching. You have this seesaw of massive imbalance. Seiya Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, and Nico Horner. And then you could say Dansby Swanson is kind of in the middle, but those three just balloon the stats against lefties for the Cubs. When Nico Horner is hitting 943 of an OPS against lefties, that's just going to inflate things. PCA, 624 OPS against lefties. Ian Happ, 678 OPS against lefties. Michael Busch, 341 OPS. And then you say, well, but there's Justin Turner. He's good against lefties. 686. It's just, that's below league average. League average is right around that 710 mark. Carson Kelly, 721 against lefties. Meanwhile, he's 914 against right-handers. So 200 points lower against lefties. This is the problem. When 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Yeah, 4 of your 9 hitters literally just are either below average or vastly below average against lefties. That's the issue. So when you look at their numbers against righties versus lefties, you look at the splits, they're not all that different. It's very, very close. But when you look at the extremes, there's half of your lineup almost can't hit lefties. That's the problem. That's why you see the John Birdies in there. That's why you see sometimes Vidal Brujan. That's why you see Justin Turner. And that's not good enough. So let's dive a little bit deeper on this because Carter Hawkins said, well, they're facing really good lefties. And that skews it too. Are they? Let's look. In June, just to summarize, 2-6 against lefties. Before that, they were 6-4 in May against lefties. And in March and April, they were 3-3. So they've really only had one decent month against lefties. And in March and April, let's start there. They faced one good lefty, and it was Jesus Luzardo, who, by the way, is not having that great of a season, 4+ ERA, but against the Cubs, he's just always been extremely good. So he's a really good lefty. The other lefties they face, Eduardo Rodriguez, not having a good season. Jeffrey Springs, Kyle Hart, Patrick Corbin, not having a good season. Andrew Haney, having a pretty good season, but that's kind of a rarity. So 3-3 against those pitchers. In May, they faced Tyler Alexander, Jose Quintana, Robbie Ray, Ryan Weathers twice, Andrew Abbott twice, and Nick Lodolo twice, and then Carson Palmquist. So a lot of just subpar guys. Then you've got Lodolo and Abbott who are pretty good. Robbie Ray is having a great season. Ryan Weathers has been injured a ton this year, so you can't, he's got good stuff. But they go 6-4. They took care of business. Okay? Then this last month, you had some studs. You had Skubal, you had Mackenzie Gore, and you had Framber Valdez. And Luzardo again. So you kind of look at that on the schedule, you say they should lose those 4. Right? So the rest of it, the other 4, were Brandon Walter, Matt Libator, Andrew Haney, and Tyler Holton. And they went 2-2 against those 4. They didn't take care of business when they needed to take care of business. And this lefty thing is just becoming a very glaring issue. So when you add all that up to put a bow on this, Carter Hawkins said they're facing really good lefties. 10 of the 24 I would consider good, not even really good, maybe 7 or 8. 10 are good. That's 42% of games are against good lefties. 10 out of 24 games, that's 42%. Assuming that you, lose maybe 7 of those 10 games, so you go 3-7, you still have another 14 games to go, and the Cubs essentially are not taking advantage of those other 14. Those other 14, they should be not pummeling, but they should at least be playing 600, 700 baseball, and they're just not doing that. To say that it's a strength, it's not a strength. It's just not. And then the last question here from Jesse, he says basically, how do you start trading for October? Do you make trades to get to October, or do you make trades to succeed in October? Which, at first, I was kind of that was an eye roll question to me. But then, as I thought about it, I was like, okay, I get it. He started talking about, well, Hector Rondon got the Cubs to October the year before, but was he going to close games in October in 2016 for a World Series winning team? No, I don't think so. So it's a good point. Here's Carter's answer, though, and this is what I find very intriguing.
So, it's really, there's always that conversation of what are you really solving for? And counterintuitively, the best way to put yourself in position to win a World Series isn't necessarily punching a ticket to the playoffs year over year over year. It's building elite teams. So when you're talking about trying to win a World Series, it's not about just getting your foot in the door. It's about trying to build that, the best optimal roster for the playoffs that you possibly can. And
so that's a very interesting and honestly exciting answer, as long as it's not just words, as long as it's actually backed up with action. To me, it hasn't been backed up with action, so that's my only concern here. And what I'm talking about is Carter Hawkins says the words, we're not just trying to build to get to the playoffs, and that's not what builds success. It's building elite teams, elite lineups, elite rosters. And you literally had Tom Ricketts over the offseason when he talked to David Kaplan say, as long as we can get to the playoffs consistently, we've got a shot. And he referenced the Cardinals. He referenced the Diamondbacks winning less than 85 games and make it to the playoffs, make it into the World Series. And that was extremely disappointing to hear that mindset. And at that time, that's the way it felt, because they had already traded for Kyle Tucker. And then you had this kind of blah rest of the offseason where you were like, I thought they were going to go get a legit starter. I thought they were going to go get a legit closer. And it just didn't happen. And so you kind of were just like, okay, cool. They're just trying to win 85 games and see if they can make it all the way on luck. This is different. This is Carter Hawkins saying, hey, it's not about luck. It's not about just making it. It's about having an elite roster. And that's exciting to hear, as we're basically less than 30 days away from the trade deadline. Plus, the Cubs have been in active trade rumors. I don't expect it to go that far. I actually think they're going to make most of their trades here in the next 2 weeks, based on just all of the momentum of what you're hearing from guys like Bruce Levine and Jesse Rogers. But man, if that's the case, if they're like, yes, we need to make an elite lineup, get ready, buckle in, buckle up. I'm excited for that. I'm cautiously excited for that, because this organization, again and again, since they won the World Series in 2016, has made lukewarm deals, minus a few. And that's where I want to know from you, the Cubs fan, do you trust, as Carter Hawkins says this, that they are truly going to try to put together an elite lineup for October this year? Or is this just an answer that a front office guy gives on a podcast to not get crap from the fans? Let me know.